Hey guys, today we're talking about the latest releases from Fractal, the new airflow focused case called Torrent, which also features the new 180mm fans. It seems good on paper with its 5 included fans and certainly looks the part, but is it any good? Let's cover what you get for your money and see what it's like to build it. And if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing. The cases from Fractal are known for their clean design, and Torrent is no exception. It is a full-size tower case supporting up to EATX or SSI EEB motherboards. It also has a very aggressive Y-shaped front grille and tempered glass panels on both sides. Or if you wish, there are also options for steel panels. Our particular model is a non-RGB variant, but Fractal does offer that option as well. Torrent is certainly larger than your average case. It is tall and pretty wide, especially considering it does not have a separate large compartment at the back for your power supply and hard drives. The dual tempered glass version weighs in just shy of 19 kilos. In the box we find the case itself, a box for accessories which include GPU anti-sag bracket as well as special adapter for the front fans. The adapter allows you to remove the two 180mm fans and replace them with three 120 or 140 ones. The only reason I would recommend doing this is if you intend to place a large radiator in that position. While we're on the subject of fans and radiators, as mentioned earlier, this case comes with 5 pre-installed fans, 280mm at the front and 340mm at the bottom. The only position available for an extra fan is at the back. Here you can install a 120 or 140mm fan. The case has 2 filters, one at the front and one at the bottom, and it's nice to see that both are pretty easily removable. At the back, there is a PWM fan hub supporting up to 9 fans that can be controlled using one header from the motherboard. This is where I would have liked it to be a bit more smart, with some sort of software support, as currently any changes reflect on all the fans at the same time. Another thing I would have liked is to have all the fan cables pre-wired to help with the cable routing out of the box. Unfortunately, they're not. As far as the radiators are concerned, there is enough and possibly more than you would ever need. You can fit up to 420mm radiator at the front and at the bottom, as well as up to 140mm radiator at the back. This case has pretty good support for custom water cooling too. It actually has a reservoir support as well as an integrated fill port to keep the whole system neat. There are actually 3 fill ports to cover different tube sizes. Let us know in the comments below if you'd like us to do a full water cooling loop in this one. Moving on to their front I/O. Here we have a microphone and headphone port, power and reset switches with the integrated power LED, and 3 USB ports, 2 USB Type-A and 1 USB Type-C Gen 2 port, with maximum speed of 10 gigabit per second. I like how they spaced out the USB Type-A ports. We use pretty large SD card readers which are always interfering, and with this case they fit just fine. To open the case, there are little push tabs at the top. The actual mechanism is latching and does not require any bolts, but if you're like me, you could secure them down using screws anyway. When we look inside, we immediately see slightly different design for the internals. In this case, PSU is stored at the top, which is the reason we have such great fan support. A word of caution, in this build I have a sound card at the bottom and it needs power. The cable just about reaches across, so make sure you have long enough cables or invest in some cable extensions. There was another thing I wish Fractal could improve on in the next iteration of this case. There are a few holes to route the cables down the bottom. These are great for general fan and I/O cables, but are just a little bit too small for the power connections, so you have to route them through the side holes. It's not a big deal, but would have preferred having more options, considering this is a pretty premium case. Flipping the case around, we find where all the drives live. There are 2 removable caddies for the 3.5-inch drives. These have a nice bit of dampening and are very easy to remove. There's also 4 dedicated 2.5-inch drive mounting locations to the left, so you can certainly load this puppy up. While we're at the back, we might as well cover cable management. There are 6 Velcro straps that cover most of the requirements, as well as 16 additional tie-down points. I personally did a quick and dirty job with the Velcros and it looks good enough. But should you have more cables from extra drives or RGB, I'm sure the extra tie-down points will come in very handy. The Velcro straps on the outside of the case are also pretty cool. It certainly is a nice touch considering the power supply is at the top, so you can neatly run all your cables out of sight. The build itself was pretty straightforward. You start with the power supply, then the motherboard and all the components. I do appreciate the motherboard screw holes being labeled based on the motherboard size. Also, while mounting the PCIe devices, I noticed that there are no borders between them. This is really nice, as some cases have slight issues with tolerances and you end up with GPU ports being covered up, which is a true pain. I mentioned this before, but if you have a larger and heavy graphics card, this case has an included GPU anti-sag bracket. If you are a fan of mounting the graphics card vertically, then you can separately order the Flex B20 riser kit. There are a few considerations to take into account. First and most important would be PCIe ports and do you actually need them. This bracket completely covers up all the expansion ports, so if you're like me and have add-in cards, you have to choose between a vertically mounted GPU or more than one PCIe device. Another thing to bear in mind would be PCIe generation of the cable. Flex B20 riser kit is using PCIe Gen 3. It's not really a bandwidth problem as of yet. Current cards can't really saturate the existing PCIe Gen 3 lanes, but it will be an issue in the future. Separately, I've had issues with some other systems not posting properly when using PCIe Gen 4 graphics card. If you find yourself in such a situation, plug in the GPU directly and change in BIOS the PCIe port generation from auto to 3, then test again. When going with an air cooling build like this, you realize that this case is pretty wide. There's plenty of space for any kind of air cooler, providing it stays below 188mm in height, which basically covers most of them on the market. Once everything is built, we set up a few tests to see how good the cooling is and how loud it actually gets. We loaded it up with Ryzen 9 3900 XT as well as RX 6700 XT and ran both Cinebench R20 on loop as well as Firmark to really generate a lot of heat. Our room temperature is 28 degrees Celsius with a room noise floor of 35 dBA. We measured the noise levels of the PC at about 50 centimeters away, which is about how far it would normally be for a typical user. At idle, it did not go above our room noise floor of 35 dBA, and at full load it reached 51 dBA. That's pretty well managed, and as the front fans are larger, the actual noise they make is much lower pitch, which is not as annoying. We tested this with GPU mounted in a standard and a vertical position just to find exactly the same results, which leads us well into the second part of the test, actual performance. Do we gain or lose from using vertical mount? First, we check the frequencies, and here both the CPU and the GPU perform the same. On the other hand, when we look at the thermals, we see a slight shift on the GPU side. Mounting it vertical position actually reduces temperature between 3 and 4 degrees, which is a nice little bump. To close this off, I'm pretty impressed with this case. It was both enjoyable to build in, and there are a lot of small details that leave a good impression. I wish the fans were pre-wired with the cables hidden away. Also, it would have been nice if there was some sort of way to control the fans individually, but other than that, if you're on the market for a large premium case, this looks cool and actually performs really well. I hope you found this useful. Don't forget to smash that thumbs up and subscribe for more. We'll see you guys in the next one.